Chapter 2 Subtopic C Supply Chain as Sources of Competitive Advantage Optimizing the Supply Chain. So, what is supply chain? Is a network of relationships between the upstream and downstream activities with all stakeholders who are involved in this chain of relationships. Upstream is which the materials flow into the organization, while the downstream are those in which materials, mostly in the form of finished products, flow away from the organization to the customers. So, to take an example, if a particular good or service is to delivered to the customer, there are raw materials that are needed for the manufacture. The forms of transport and means of storage for the raw materials, the transports of finished goods to the retailers, and the logistic involved in getting the goods to the customers are all parts of supply chains that extend from suppliers to the customers. In other words, there is a chain of relationships between the firm and the partners involved in this chain. Therefore, supply chains are composite of all these stakeholders, and the relationships between them determine the effectiveness of the supply chain. In contemporary times, supply chains can be sources of competitive advantage as the efficient management of the supply chains lead to the cost saving and synergies between the components of the supply chain leads to the greater probability for the firms. It is for the reason that many business leaders have focused their energies on optimizing the supply chains for increasing the top line as well as the bottom line. Supply chain as strategic levers. The optimization of the supply chain through just in time or GIT methods of holding inventory, focus on reducing the cost of goods sold by rationalizing the expenditure on the components of the supply chain, all lead to the situation that can be extremely beneficial to the firms. It is for this reason that many firms like Walmart, Procter and Gamble, Tata Motors, and Unilever focused on rationalizing the activities that form the supply chain. So the point here is that with astute management of the supply chain, firms can derive value from the process which can then translate into greater profits and lesser cost. Apart from this, the supply chain can also be strategic and competitive advantage because a major portion of the cost of goods sold is made up of logistics and supply chain expenses. The case of Walmart. So, Walmart is one retailer that has managed its global supply chain in an adroit and efficient manner. As it operates in various countries around the world, it needs to have control over its global supply chain, and this is where the company, with its focus in global capabilities and global movement and integration, has made its supply chain leaner and meaner. Further, the company obsessed with the cost and therefore it focuses exclusively on how to make its cost of goods sold and the logistics aspects of the supply chain efficient and effective. Apart from this, the single minded obsession with reducing costs has paid off handsomely for the company as it retains its number one position in the retailer market space due to its cost effective strategies that translate into lower unit prices for the products it stocks. Of course, there are many who believe that the company overemphasizes the cost reductions in its supply chain and this has led to some ethical issues. However, the point here is that in times of economic gloom, Walmart, with its aggressive approach to supply chain management, has scored over its rivals. Without suggesting the ethics should be discarded or ignored, the fact remains that a concentrated effort to rationalize the supply chain can pay off well for companies. Concluding remarks. Finally, the twin challenges of the globalization of the world economy and the increase in the global complexity of supply chain are formidable, and when taken together with the effect of the ongoing economic crisis, business leaders have their hands full trying to make decisions on how to meet these challenges. Isaac Rosa Pizarra, BSHM 1B Night, your reporter for today.